Tired, are you?
Yes.
Knackered after filming that Series 5 Part 4 review?
Yes. Wibbly wobbly.
You got the energy to go see a live show?
Go on then.
11 years ago. 12 by the time this goes out. Look at that! Look at that! And it's mostly a reflection of the room, which is so weird. But welcome back to Doctor Who Review. I'm Chris.
I'm not going to...
And we wanted to take a little bit of time to chat around three technically, live experiences that came out as a result of the Matt Smith era of Doctor Who kicking off. One we've mentioned briefly during the proms, which was Doctor Who A Symphonic Celebration. Do you remember that? Concert at Wembley, Peter Davison hosted it.
Yeah.
That was fun, wasn't it? It was basically the proms, but on tour. It was a really cool experience.
Not as sweaty.
No, and that's all we can really say about it. It was the proms on tour, there were some monster costume elements involved, but it was essentially, you know, it was a really cool classical concert that focused on playing the music of Murray Gold. There were two interactive experiences, however.
There were.
Two full-on shows. One of which we're going to talk about first is Doctor Who Live, a.k.a. Here Come the Monsters, which toured the UK in 2010. It was a tour, wasn't it? I mean, we saw it in London. Londinium. It was an arena-based stage show. We saw it at Wembley. We saw both those shows at Wembley, actually.
Wembley. What?
Yeah, Wembley.
Wembley's not the Millennium.
No.
No.
We never went to the Millennium.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we did for Disney on Ice.
Disney on Ice.
So we saw Doctor Who live. What I love about it is at the time it was just a really fun show.
Yeah. Since
you've seen Carnival of Monsters.
I have.
So tell me if this sounds remotely familiar. So the show starred Nigel Planer, brilliant Nigel Planer, as Vorgenson. With his travelling show, Vorgenson is dubbed the greatest showman in the galaxy, so even that's a reference to another story. But Vorgenson is touring his incredible creature menagerie called the Minimizer. Sounds familiar, sounds kind of like the Miniscope. And it contains...
Somebody then, but I won't.
You're going to get Drashig off the shelf?
Yeah.
Where is he? Oh, yeah. No, don't do it. Yeah, go on, Sonic. Can you get him? There we are. Let's bring him in. So, we have, as long as you say his popular catchphrase. He's not in shot. There we go.
Oh, wait.
Hang on. What are you doing? Why is he facing away from the camera?
Because my arm doesn't bend that way.
Yeah, it does.
Whoa, what's this?
Awkward. Great. I'll give Billy a ring, let him know that his job's not remotely under threat.
Rude.
So, he's going to sit here now for the rest of the video. Just back here, chilling. He's got the Miniscope and he's touring it around, showing people different things from around the universe, wonders and incredible sights and strange creatures. Turns out, though, the whole thing is a trap for the Doctor. Vorgenson wants revenge on the Doctor for his family's business being destroyed and him not inheriting any riches. Because turns out Vorgenson is a clue. He's the son of Vorg, the character from Carnival of Monsters, who, of course, along with his assistant, is essentially sat in like the airport security baggage area having their stuff looked at, including the Miniscope full of strange creatures. Vorgenson is threatening to disrupt history, keep the audience hostage, in an attempt to get the Doctor... His ultimate revenge, as far as he's concerned, is trapping the last Gallifreyan in his collection. Matt Smith played the Doctor in a series of pre-recorded videos that were on the big screen on the monitor, and very cleverly, once the Doctor was imprisoned, on a multi-screen setup in what looked like a cubed prison. Do you remember? Mm-hmm. In fact, and I'll edit them into the video, but I'll show these to you here now in person. There is an image that one of us took for the final confrontation toward the end, where the big chunky boys are out on stage, chonking around with the big old roundels and the massive head, and there's Smith in the sort of prison box thing, which is quite clever because obviously
it looks like he's on Snug Mario Boy.
Well, it was meant to be like a glass case kind of jobby.
Yeah,
and it had 4 sides, but only 2 of them were visible to the audience. So they obviously shot Smith from 2 slightly different angles. So based on where you were sat, it looked like you were looking at him from the correct side he was facing, which was very, very cool. Monsters abound. There was me. Remember the meet and greet afterwards, hanging out with a Silurian, just chilling in one of my many checked shirts that I owned back in 2010, and a jawline. That's quite impressive. So yeah, it was a concert because there was music played live. There was an orchestra there the same way there would be a band in a pit at a play or a musical. So they weren't like look at the orchestra. They were just there playing the music for the events.
Yeah.
But stuff would happen. At one point, Weeping Angels escape the Minimizer, and police turn up because at this point, disruptions had been announced. Had been called in about. So police show up at the arena that you're watching it to deal with it, and that's when the Weeping Angel sequence happens. Do you remember on the video feed there was the one from the video feed in Time of Angels just on the big screen? Just stayed like that, and after like 3 or 4 minutes of that sequence, it had changed to the closer version.
It's weird.
So creepy.
Even though you know it's not real, you'd still be staring at it like,
oh god, oh god.
Well, I've just realised that nobody can see what I'm doing.
Yeah, she's blinking one by one. You can now. Jadoon rock up. Scarecrows were milling about in the interval. If I remember correctly, they were just milling around, scaring people. Scarecrows from Human Nature.
Why are they there?
Because the Scarecrows appeared at like all the live events, the proms,
Is it
things
because
like
they were
that.
an easy costume?
Easy costume, but also instantly creepy interaction character.
Just because most of these are, well, to be fair,
Let's just
mix.
make it clear
Sorry.
what the hell you're talking about. There are monsters on this holographic cover that are really hard to see. Who have we got? We've got vampires from Vampires of Venice.
Yeah, fish ladies.
Weeping Angels. Jadoon. Smilers. I think they featured in this. Scarecrows.
Are you joking?
In this show, I can't remember if the Smilers featured in this show or not.
I remember where we were sat, because Guy Lambert was sat.
Lovely
in
Guy
the middle.
Lambert with his dreams. Yeah.
And we were sat a bit further up, weren't we?
Oh yeah, they were in the show. Yeah. Let me see if I
They
can
came
find
out
where they came in.
not randomly in the story. They came out from the sides, and we were quite close to them. And you just went, "Oh, don't turn around."
Oh yeah, because you really freaked out by it.
And then I was like, "Why?"
Clockwork Robots, Silurians, Modern Ones, Daleks, and Cybermen. They're all in the nursery compared to us. They show up periodically throughout the show. They're all really creepy. It's a lot of fun. At one point, to cause a time disruption and cause the Doctor to find the event, Vorgensen briefly snatches Winston Churchill out of time. Do you remember this? Churchill was on stage. Do you remember this at all?
Vaguely, yeah.
But it wasn't Ian McNeice. Ian McNeice wasn't playing him. Nick
Churchill.
Briggs was playing Churchill.
Oh.
He did a pretty good job, but it was very kind of jarring considering the episode with Churchill had just got out 5 weeks before. It was
I find my way into all of these. Anything Doctor Who, I will find.
Churchill's lost a shitload of weight, and
It looks like Nick Briggs.
sounds an awful lot like the Big Finish trailer voice. Big Finish, big blood storage. Yeah, there he is. So it wasn't the best impression, was it?
It wasn't.
Your impression of Bartok from Anastasia is better. Quick, say the thing.
And I ticker, sir.
So good. That's just
I'm not so
scary
many
good.
random Crash Bandicoot.
That's a fantastic neocortex.
All I can say.
It's not quite Nick Briggs' Churchill though. So
unfortunately,
we learn that Vorgensen's been played. He doesn't realise it himself. He's been bamboozled, hoodwinked. The Daleks have engineered the entire event in an attempt to destroy the Doctor. Which culminates in 4 of the chunky boys of the all different flavours of Power Ranger Dalek on stage, and the Supreme levitating his sweet arse off in an effect that I'm sure from the front looked amazing. That giant thing hovering above the stage must have looked so cool. We'll never know though.
it was on a rig.
Because we were sat the balcony seating to the right, stage right.
Mm-hmm.
So we could see the arm that it was on.
Yeah.
It was still an impressive
cool.
effect. It's
Yeah,
that's really cool, but it's a shame we're not getting to see it how it's meant to be seen. But this was great.
How else would you be able to do it though?
I'm not saying that
Wires.
find a magical way. I'm just
Just
saying, like,
swing
it
it
is a shame that our seats got us a good view for, like, the concert and watching everyone's reactions as monsters, like, went out into the crowd and stuff. But we didn't get to see the Dalek levitation effect the way it was meant. It's like when I did Aladdin for Panto, and, like, in the wings I can see how the magic carpet is achieved, and I never once saw how it was meant to look.
It looked amazing.
Yeah, like, every review for that show was like, the magic carpet sequence looks incredible.
I was scared.
And I'm like, does it? Because back here it's 5 techies with a load of weights and a giant metal arm freaking out in the dark.
I was scared for them. Were they attached to it?
Yes, there was a handle in the middle that they were both holding. If you looked subtly, they were clutching this handle.
Were they attached?
And it was wide enough that they weren't going to go anywhere. The way it's built, is it counterweighted. So Ali and Anna, they no matter what direction the winch was, the carpet would always be facing up and flat. So they would always be fine. As long as they held onto the handle in the middle, they weren't going anywhere.
That's theatre magic right there.
Theatre, ruddy magic. Which is what this was. Like, this is the closest that modern Doctor Who has come to the Doctors popping up at meet and greets in the 70s and 80s, and you know, Hartland Troughton, like, going to school festivals in the 60s and, like, appearing in character to open school fates. And
you imagine that? A school fate? I don't think they happen anymore.
Doctor Who just rocks up and it's like, yes, I'm going to cut the ribbon. It's not a supermarket. Oh, where am I?
I'm here, open this Safeway.
Where's Vicky? Safeway.
Susan!
Oh no, she's played her ankle again.
Get the cantaloupe.
What? Anyway.
What's a cantaloupe?
In the 80s there were 80s and 90s there were theatre shows like Doctor Who and the Seven Keys to Doomsday. There have been staged versions in official and unofficial production, staged versions of, like, the Trial of Davros after the events of Genesis of the Daleks. There's been all these kind of theatrical productions based around Doctor Who. This is the closest the modern era's done that, isn't it? And it was a ton of fun.
It was fun.
It was really, really cool. It was an
remember
arena
that day.
music show with fun costume elements, and Nigel Planer acted his balls off to a load of screens and masks.
I remember that day extremely clearly because it was before the days where I worked a lot, so I didn't earn that much money. And so I had to get a megabus to London. Now, if you've ever got a megabus to London...
It's a beautiful programme, isn't it?
From up north, you know how miserable it is. Sorry, if you can hear that chirping, it's our cat under the table.
While you're talking, I'm going to flash the pictures of Morganson in the OK Magazine style interview on screen.
In the bathroom. I wondered why I recognised him, but he's from the Young Ones, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Neil from the Young Ones. And a million other dramas and stage productions
of
since,
course, but his face is never
You
changed.
look at him and you're like, right, give him giant long hair and have him talking really dopey. Love the that's blueprints
really cool.
and stuff.
It's a beautiful, beautiful programme.
There's blueprints of the Jadoon ship in translucent paper, and
this is why it's always worth getting the souvenir programmes.
The event.
Because it takes you back to when you watched it.
there is the invitation to the event itself in world in the middle. The brochure for Vorgenson's travelling miniscope.
But yeah, that day I got a megabus to London.
Mm-hmm.
And all the tubes were off.
The tubes!
Every single one, I think. Well, that was going.
Yeah, because I joined you because we had to bus to Wembley and we just about.
We had to bus. We tried to get a taxi.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't.
Yeah.
We had to power walk.
Because it was like a Saturday as well, so it was busy. It was a busy, busy day.
And it was really warm that day, and I looked a mess. And we ended up going to the party afterwards, didn't we? In the green room or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Was that for this one or was that for Symphonic Celebration? No, it was for this one.
It was this one, yeah. Because Nick Briggs was there because you met him there.
It was that was the first time I met Nick because I'd done some big Finnish voices at that point, but it was a drop-in session and Nick wasn't there for that session. Gary Russell was directing. So yeah, God, yeah.
Sweet Gary.
Well, we've got a story to tell about Gary in a minute because when we move on to the next thing.
But I remember one of the actresses, bless her heart, she was talking to us, we were chatting, and she said, and now everybody assumes that I'm an actress because Christopher's an actor, and so I must be an actress. No, very not. Very no. Oh, we're going to shop. But at the time I worked in a bar, and she was like, "Oh, so what do you do?" I was like, "Oh, it's nothing as interesting as all this," and very excited. She was like, "No, really, what do you do?" I said, I work in a bar. And she looked me up and down and went, "Oh," and walked away. I was like, wow.
So that was a chancer then.
Showbiz!
That was a chancer then. It was hoping she was talking to an agent or someone.
He looked an absolute mess, sweaty.
Never, I'm saying this now, if you're a performer and you're having an after-show thing, never, ever go into the mentality of like an after-show thing or a press night of networking. Have a drink, enjoy yourself. Don't be weird.
And please don't treat people like you're better than them, because they remember it like
12 years
later. But that was the first time I met Guy.
It was, yeah.
It was.
This fabled man who I'd been telling you about, who'd been writing me all the funny links.
The second time I met him was at a friend's birthday, and he was like, "Oh, you look amazing." I was like, "Yeah, not as sweaty this time." I had a drink by then.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, yeah." I was like, why did I just say that?
He was very drunk. Before we move on, because we really do have to move on.
Sorry, I'm reminiscing now. It's nice.
It's very sweet. Here are some factoids in the programme. Bit of piracy for you. I'm going to read you a page. Here's some factoids about all the things that we used. Yeah, because this is a programme that...
Can you buy these anymore?
Oh no, these are on eBay and stuff now. But how about this since we bloody went in 2010? Here's some factoids about what was used to make the show. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
89 costume changes.
Wow.
7 by 45 foot trucks, so in terms of capacity for what they're hauling around. 773 foot of truss, 52 chain hoists, 1,040 metres of chain used in the show, 2,770 metres of electrical tape, 4,800 metres of gaffer tape, 600 metres of floor tape, pyrotechnics, up to 40 individual effects per show, 2 times 8 metre propane effect, and 8 times 4 metre propane effects. I don't know that. Why would they be separate things? 2 times 13 watt lasers. The power is 1,000 amps, 3-phase used per show, and 80 moving light ball heads. So basically, an expensive show to put on, I guess. That's a lot of equipment.
But it was...
And a lot of tape.
Can you imagine if they did that now? They would...
For an arena show?
Yeah.
They could do it. I mean, do you remember the Batman one was the year after that, and that was huge. There's also a note at the beginning from the Doctor, which is quite cute. Hello everybody, I'm writing from the future. Well, actually, I'm in the year 1843, so I'm writing to you from the past, but it's my future, which is your past. All the terrifying, exciting things you're about to see happened to me last week in the present. Your present. Today. Your today, not my today. Though it was my today once. Last week. You're about to see a machine called the Minimizer. A highly illegal, highly unethical, and highly thrilling machine full of horrific, dangerous, and exciting monsters. I'd thought machines of this kind had been destroyed. I was wrong. But whatever happens, there is no need to worry. Yes, it's going to be a dangerous and electrifying experience, and you will see me worry, but back then, now, I had need to worry, and so do you. So will you? Though, as I said, there really is no need. Right, I must get forward to whatever I'm doing, which I can't tell you about. Spoilers. All you need to do is have fun. The Doctor. So it's like, that's quite cute. Imagine being a kid picking that up and reading the book, and there's an intro from the Doctor on the first page. That is really cute.
That's true.
This is great. If you're just a fan of the knickknacks and whatnot, try and get hold of one of these, because it's really, really, really cute. Anyway, Live by Doctor Who Live. Let's talk about the Doctor Who we lived through on a few different occasions. We went to it first when it was at the Olympia in Earl's Court in London. I went to it a few times actually while it was down there with mates. And
I didn't go to that one.
Did you not go to that one? Mm-mm. Oh my god. Well then, we went to it for Cardiff.
Oh, we did?
You must have come to it. I went 3 times.
We went after a convention.
Yeah, sounds... No, we didn't go after a convention, but it's the same stop-off that we... It's the Olympia. It's where some of the Earl's Court conventions have been over the years. You know, when it's in the multi-tiered one. Indoors.
We'd done something in the day, and we were one of the last ones to get through.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, no, I remember that. Okay. Because I'd been like, there was a vlog that existed many moons ago. I think it was on John's channel, but I went with Chris Thompson and John Granson, and we did like a trip round it. We titted around at the museum afterwards in a non-obnoxious but charming way. And then we went to it in Cardiff. Did you only go to it in Cardiff the one time then, when we had the special trip round it?
I went to the one in Manchester.
Never went to Manchester.
I did.
The Doctor Who experience never came to Manchester.
Oh no, was that just a museum thing?
Yeah, that's the Doctor Who exhibition.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, which again, like the second half of the Doctor Who experience,
spent a lot of money.
the second half of the Doctor Who experience was the Doctor Who exhibition because it was just an ongoing.
Yeah,
and when it moved to Cardiff,
when
it moved to Cardiff, it kept going on because they kept adding new things to it after every production cycle. And after every story that had gone out, and they were able to show things. So the Doctor Who experience was a walk-through adventure theatrical experience that ended with a big old museum of the programme's history, past and present.
Yeah.
There were 2 versions of the experience narratively. For the first several years of its run in London, and then obviously they moved to Cardiff. It was a story centering around Matt Smith and the Pandorica 2. And I love how, if I remember correctly, he bollocks it in that and says it's a rubbish name.
It is. I don't blame him.
And then the second story involving Capaldi, which I did manage to go on not long before the place closed.
Yeah. You kind of made a mission to do that, though, didn't you?
Well, I was down for the Attic, the Sarah Jane Adventures convention. We were going down the day before, and me and Guy Lambert were like, well, we'll go down and we'll do the Doctor Who experience. Because we knew at that point that I think the rumour was out that it was probably not getting its licence renewed by the end of the next tenure, so we knew that it wasn't long for this world anymore. We were like, we want to go and see the Capaldi version before it closes down.
Yeah.
And it was
sad,
so good. Can I get it? Why?
It was less popular.
That's not why, though. It was about the rent on the building.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, it makes sense.
And after they dealt with it, I think the place was occupied for a while and then it was just knocked down or something like that.
Was it knocked down?
Pretty sure the building's gone now.
That's weird, because that's like, it was a good space.
And it was built for the Doctor Who experience. So it was custom built for events. So it just seems weird to go, sod that.
Like Event City?
Well, no, because that wasn't built for a specific event, was it? Or a specific tourist destination.
Well, it's built for events.
Yeah, no, but the Doctor Who experience building in Cardiff was built for the Doctor Who experience. Like, it was built to have this walk-round special effects theatrical production and then museum with multiple floors. Whereas, like,
did you just check, has it been knocked down?
I couldn't be asked. Whereas at Olympia, they like crammed the experience into the building. Now, when you're in it, you couldn't tell. What can you remember of the story of the Doctor Who experience version 1?
There's a crack in...
Well, we see a presentation of, like, Series 5 stuff. Really well edited, like, montage as well. But at the end of it, it sets up the crack in the universe. And
it's very cool.
It's so cool. It appears on the screen. Like, it spreads through the screen that you've been watching. And then it turns, like, to a vertical position. Do you remember? And then the wall opened. That was gorgeous. The first room you're led into, again from my memory, it's a storage room somewhere on the Starship UK. I'm going to have to pull it up just so we're not getting the facts too wrong here. But
I don't remember that.
It's like somewhere on the Starship UK, but it's a room full of stuff. So there's the telescope from the Torchwood estate is in there, and there's like Nestine sphere and a crate, which of course at the time you would have had no bleeding clue what that is. But now, if I told you, the purple ball that glows like one in the crate.
I think I do recall that.
And you've got. Let me pull this bad boy up. Yeah, building is closed. Opens tomorrow at 10 a.m. No, it doesn't, folks.
Oh no!
No, it doesn't. Someone needs to update Google.
Oh no! Imagine if somebody reads that and it's like, oh yeah, it's still open.
It's like no.
Oh no, that's sad.
Yes, here we go. Notable story: 11th Doctor interactive story, 11th Doctor era. So here we go. So I'll have a little read through it and tell me what you remember, sir.
Okay.
So, visitors have been shown various artefacts, most from the Doctor's past, by a node on board the Starship UK. Remember, a node's our tour guide. The Donna Noble has left the library. One of those things was a projected face.
Oh, yeah, the egg, yeah.
On the egg?
They look like eggs.
Oh, dear.
Like the face is the yolk.
Oh, dear. Suddenly, alarms ring and the 11th Doctor appears on the screen. He explains he's been trapped inside the Pandorica 2. He's angry at it being the same colour, and he believes having a second Pandorica is cheating. The Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver to materialise the Tardis nearby to the visitors. Do you remember that? So in the corner of the room was a dark space, like a bookshelf, and it was lit a certain way, but anyone who's like privy to theme park rides and theme park setup queues is like, there's a gauze curtain in front of that wall. There's a gauze curtain in front of that wall so that the lights are only focusing on the bookcase and there's something dark in the corner, because once it starts to light up, it looks like the TARDIS is kind of appearing out of nowhere. It was there the whole time, you just don't see it, which is so well done. He referred to everyone as shoppers. Do you remember? Because people walk around with bags in their hands and he just assumes that we're a bunch of shoppers on a jolly. So that's what we were called, the shoppers. The shoppers pass a smiler. Remember, there's a smiler booth near the TARDIS. Doesn't interact, doesn't move, and if I remember correctly, it's just got the frowny face. Remember, there's the second face,
which is worse,
which is the weirdest one. Into the TARDIS.
Boy, Timmy.
Do you remember? Oh God, do you remember controlling the TARDIS? I think we didn't control it, but we watched kids. We definitely did which we'll get to the last time we went to this. But do you remember? So you go into it's a recreation of the 11th Doctor's TARDIS, sort of a smaller version.
Yeah.
There's like layered floors around the console, and as it travels, because basically they encourage the kids, thinking the Doctor's like the smaller the hands, the better. The adults will just get it wrong, stuff like that. So it's like kids control it, and the floors sort of moved independently as it materialises.
Because he was stood at the back once watching the kids do it, because it was just dead cute.
It was the cutest thing ever.
Because they were like running around to different levers.
He opens up a time corridor through a different doorway in the TARDIS. Because he doesn't want you to go through the main door, because if you go through the main door, like, you might step out into danger, as will sneak you in. Can you remember the first location? You straight out of the frying pan and into the fire for the first location.
Is it on a ship? A Dalek ship?
Dalek ship. Where we get accosted by a Supreme Dalek on the shelf above, like as a sort of a raised platform. And this is modelled after, I can't remember it exactly, but it's in another one of the... It's in none of the medium. It's in like the Dalek comics from the 60s or something. There's this whole thing where the main Dalek is up here on a platform, and their others are controlling this. And there's some in those there's corridor ones, remember? And they sort of like start to approach.
Yeah, what it was that they were going almost like down towards you. You were in the middle of the room, and you were lower than everything else. So when they were coming to you, it was like, no, stop.
The Supreme Dalek and two Daleks capture the shoppers, and a screen appears showing the Daleks. The Doctor appears on the screen, bargaining with the Daleks to release us. A few minutes later, Daleks that survived the destruction of the Crucible appear on screen. So we get Gold Boys. And if I remember correctly, it's just footage of Dalek Sec repurposed from Series 2. But it's like, it's the Bronze Boys versus the New Paradigm. Because basically... You've been thrown into a Dalek civil war, essentially. Like, that's what you're dealing with. So while the fight's going on, the Paradigm believing those Daleks to be impure, blah, blah, blah. The shoppers escape in a time corridor extruded by the Doctor using the TARDIS. They go through it and find themselves in a unit quarantine zone in Avonbury Forest. Do you remember that? What's in the forest?
Trauma.
3 weeping angels.
There's statues.
There's a screaming one. There's a calm one doing the hands over the eyes thing, and there is an image projection of one. So it's like it's coming out of a screen. That bit was legit freaky with a crowd of people and with 3 of us. That was a legit, like, this is unnerving. I remember when we went with the 3 of us, which I'll explain in a minute, we took that bit a little slower and just kind of like drank in the details a bit more, because that room is one where, like, if you stop and linger a bit, you're like, we're in a room with black curtain walls and studio lights, because you're not meant to stop and be still in that room. You're meant to move quickly along the path. It's quite a far path as well. It's like corridor, and then jagged path, and you're out. I think of the... In both layouts, actually, London and Cardiff had that layout.
When I think of the Doctor experience, that is the thing I remember first. That and the Dalek section.
So we get to a newly opened time corridor, which takes us to the location of the Pandorica 2, which, do you remember, it's sort of like an underhenge kind of setup with seating / standing room for you to watch what's going on. There is a petrified Dalek, and I think there's a petrified Cyberman, or part of one is in there.
Yeah, I think it's a part of one.
And this is where you put on your 3D specs, and essentially, like, the sequence happens where the Doctor, like, pilots the Pandorica through the vortex with your help or something. He's managed to free himself, and that's it. He appears on a screen in the Tardis next to the mount. As you watch him, the Pandorica 2 opens up and flies through the time vortex. Daleks, Weeping Angels, and Cyberman attack, but eventually they escape them, and the shoppers are returned to Starship UK and the gift shop. But that film was quite cool, because essentially it's like a trip to the vortex with the TARDIS and the Pandorica smashing through it, and these things floating adrift in the thingy, which was sort of like a homage to the teaser trailer for Series 5, the monsters in the vortex. And do you remember there's that brilliant bit where, like, the brightness of it kept flickering, and every time it came up, an angel that was further back in the vortex got a bit closer. And it was a pretty decent 3D effect, because in its last thing, it's just reaching out at you. And it's like, oh my god, that is quite freaky. That is pretty striking.
I will never not find the bottom of a Weeping Angel funny.
Just a flat surface.
Just like spiraling. It's a really scary monster. That makes me laugh eternally, but... No, it was very detailed, very bright, very loud and interactive, but it wasn't really interactive, but it felt like it.
I'll very briefly sum up the 12th Doctor version. It's got some deviations. It begins with a presentation about the Doctor that is hosted by a curator of a Gallifreyan museum. It's sort of suggested that they're either a retired Time Lord who's somewhere else in the galaxy, or that they're someone who studied Gallifrey and is, kind of learning about it. Like the Gallifreyan robes. So for this version, you have a performer who guides you through it.
Oh.
They had a cast who rotated throughout the day. You watch this presentation on the screen first, which is narrated by Romana.
Oh.
And it is Lala Ward voicing her. And you get the implication that this is a message to sort of try and let the Doctor know that they're going to be okay if anyone does manage to find him. Because, of course, by this point, Capaldi's era, we know that Gallifrey is okay, and it's separated in another pocket reality, frozen in a moment. Yeah. So, it's this whole... At this point, we were still in that realm of, we're going to get to Gallifrey at some point in the series. This will be exciting. We're being shown various artifacts from his past, because we moved into the next room, and it's exhibition and everything, by a curator at the Gallifrey Museum. While trying to make a connection with the 12th Doctor's TARDIS, it is attacked, and the museum and the TARDIS are physically linked. So, we're led through the museum wall into what appears to be the TARDIS Arch Recon room, and to a TARDIS control room. In this... You go into a TARDIS control room that is the 11th Doctor one, because it would be very expensive to make the later 11th Doctor, 12th Doctor one at that point. So you go through into the 11th Doctor one. The idea is that the TARDIS is just trying to do what it can. It's like throwing stuff at you that you could comprehend.
The 12th Doctors.
It's the grey with the rotating thing above the column, and it's a balcony in the middle, and there's bookshelves up the stairs and everything. And
I do remember. Sorry, yeah, no, I do remember.
You go through a Dalek-infested corridor. And a version of the Dalek ship that's sort of derelict, and it's more of a homage to Asylum of the Daleks, because it's full of dead Daleks of different generations. So you've got like a Supreme from this one still, but you've got like a couple of the classic blue and grey boys from the 60s, and they're kind of broken and bashed in and everything, and so it's more of an Asylum of the Daleks kind of homage. You go through a Weeping Angel forest. If I remember correctly, by this point there were some of the static statues from the Series 5 two-parter. So like the ones that are more just kind of like statues that look decayed. They'd like fleshed it out a little bit. There's like from I don't get what you're doing. I'm very confused. But the hands are coming out of the ground as well, things like that. So the forest again, but they filled it with more like, what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? Because they've got to change it up a little bit for the recurring visitors.
Like graveyard.
It looked more like a graveyard than a forest. Yeah. They'd lent more into the stones and dead trees kind of vibe for this iteration.
Do, like Halloween decorations like that you can put in your garden.
Because people might mistake it for someone actually being buried alive and get worried. I don't know.
I don't know why they sound like a parrot.
That was weird. And then finally you end up... I think there's a version of the Pandorica 2 scene. I remember the Vortex scene still being in it, but I can't remember if it was in the Pandorica room or not. Because the 12th Doctor's not trapped in the Pandorica, but he's communicating to you over He's somewhere else in the TARDIS. And he's in like a secondary console room which keeps glitching. So every time he speaks to you over like the monitors, he's in his console room, and then he's in like the first Doctor's console room, and it's just sort of an excuse for them to have Capaldi on different sets talking to on the camera. Most of which were the sets that you then see in the exhibition afterwards.
Yeah.
Which of course one of them got used explicitly in the 50th anniversary, and it's really obvious when you know that.
Yeah.
But one of the last locations you go to is 76 Totters Lane on the 23rd of November in 1963.
London, 1963.
And I was like, hang on, I'm sure I went to that set somewhere else, and it was Doctor Who Celebration in 2013. There was a recreation of like the gates, wasn't there, in the first courtyard as part of the exhibit. So it's probably the same one. They just went,
seen it again.
put it a bit.
Eh?
Why is everyone really excited about this gate?
What is this? What are you?
But yeah, the experience was amazing. The exhibit was incredible. It came with costumes from different Doctors, monsters from different eras. It sort of focused on the modern one in its original incarnation with a few key ones from the classic era, but as it moved to Cardiff, it fleshed itself out like crazy, like restored costumes and set pieces and props from the original era of the show. Anything from the modern era was there in really good nick, and as series 9 and 10 went on, they would add those new monsters, new characters like to the exhibit as it went on, because of course at this point they're in their own custom built building down the road from Roth Lock where they're making the show, like literally on the same stretch of road.
Yeah.
So
we walked past it, didn't we, a few times?
Yeah, because I was like, I've been in there. I've been in there.
And we saw the doors, which we later will know that that's where the
Five-ish Doctors reboot.
Yeah.
which when we get to that, I'll tell my story about the fact that I was there while that was being filmed, and it's a weird thought. But anyway, we'll get to that. We had a really interesting experience with the Doctor Who experience, didn't we?
It was an experience.
So, because of my time working on the adventure games and some Big Finish stuff, and working with the branding teams of the Sarah Jane Adventures, I've gotten to know script editor for Sarah Jane, and one of the co-founders and earlier runners of Big Finish, Gary Russell. And we were in Cardiff. We were going out to Cardiff, and Gary was like, "Oh no, we said like we're gonna try and go to the experience when we're down. We had like a day."
Yeah, because I was just thinking then, what were we going to?
Because we got up mega early. We went down there. We're like, we're gonna mooch about. We're gonna go to the Doctor Who experience. Then we're gonna come home. And if you're in town, like let's meet up. And he went, absolutely. We get to Ed's Diner in the Queen's Arcade, the mall. We went to Ed's Diner, didn't we?
No, we didn't.
It was a diner like that, though, wasn't it?
No.
It was like a milkshakey diner place.
No,
what was it then?
We went to a little Mexican place because you had chimichangas.
No, I don't think that's right.
Oh no, we saw a place that did
Yes, thank you. We went to Ed's
Sorry.
Diner.
Yeah,
Like,
you're
what are you
right.
talking about?
Sorry,
We were sat in
sorry.
Ed's Diner.
I don't like Mexican food, so.
So we're chatting to Gary, and Gary was like, "You do realise it's Tuesday?" We're like, "Yeah." And he went, "The experience isn't open today." We're like, "Oh no! Well, that's fine. Like, that's cool. There's still plenty of stuff. We've literally just come to Cardiff for a day to have a mooch around,
Let's go to
explore,
Hanley's
and catch up with yourself and have a chat."
And we went to see Yanto's wall.
Yanto's shrine, and then we had a mooch around the bay. But what was great was, because we hadn't been to Cardiff together since 2007, 2008 when we saw The Producers.
Wow.
That's
another story, though.
That's another story for another time. But when we do our Producers Marathon, it's great. We watch the first film and then we reject the 2005 movie. But then we'll watch all of Curb Your Enthusiasm series 4, whichever one it is. Well, it's the subplot.
Yeah,
Gary went away to make a phone call during lunch. He was like, "So I'm really sorry, I've just got to make a call." Well, no worries. And then he came back and he went, "All right, you still got a bit of time. Like, do you